right. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshunumilitamena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. So we're discussing chapter 4 Bhagavad-Gita. And chapter 3, Krishna has discussed the doctrine of Karma Yoga, which basically is a doctrine that reconciles living in the world in a spiritual way. Usually the two are seen as diametric opposites. If you're spiritual, you have to renounce the world. If you're spiritual, you have to renounce the world. And if you're material, then you're just living a worldly life. And oftentimes when persons come to spiritual life, they have this dilemma, how to reconcile their spirituality with the world that they live in. And so the doctrine of Karma Yoga is meant to give a teaching by which that is made possible. How do you live in the world but not be touched by it? Like a lotus in the water. The lotus flower apparently has some sort of like film over it. So if any water touches it, then the water immediately, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like it doesn't stick. I'm looking for a more eloquent word. It falls off. So what is the film? The protective film that allows a person to be in the world but not become preoccupied with it. So that is a doctrine of Karma Yoga that Krishna taught previously. And so in the beginning of chapter 4, which is where we're at now, Krishna mentions that this doctrine he is taught to a lineage of great personalities. This is verse 1. I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god Vivaswan, and Vivaswan instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind, and Manu in turn instructed it to Ishwaku. Of course, these names mean nothing to us, but these names were like the names back in the day. There's like now you have people appreciate like some Deepak Chopra or some Eckhart Tolle, some Ram Dass, and if you were some spiritual person, you say, I taught this to them. You taught it to those great personalities. Anyway, we don't exactly consider them great, but they're appreciated in the spiritual marketplace as having some sort of esteem. They're esteemed. So these were the esteemed names of a universal nature at that time. So Krishna wants to point out the historicity of this teaching to show that it is authentic and it is not a mental concoction. This is not the habit of modern day spirituality, but in older Vedanta culture, something is only accepted as authentic if it was referenced from the scriptures and also if great persons followed that. Otherwise, if you just come up with some concept, it would be rejected immediately. Like sometimes people say, well, in my opinion. So in the modern day, we kind of entertain that. Oh, what is your opinion? But in these other cultures, if someone said, in my opinion, it would be like, dun, 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 dun. That was like not allowed. You have to immediately, if you made any statement, you were supposed to immediately quote some authority. Just like when we were in high school, that's as far as I went. Some of us may have went to college also. When you would write some paper, you couldn't just write anything. You had to put a footnote. Or there had to be citations, and there had to be like an endnote page. What do you call that? A bibliography. Otherwise, how do they know you didn't just cut and paste? Nowadays, they have these fancy machines where they can figure out if you cut and paste things. But 15 years ago, they didn't have that. So you just go to Wikipedia. And what you would normally do is you wouldn't exactly cut and paste. You would cut and paste and then switch the sentence around. So that it would be the same sentence, you just switch it around. So that way it was like your own creation. But no teacher would accept it as authentic. They immediately want to know where you're getting this idea from. You have to put a footnote, and then there had to be a bibliography. Otherwise, it would be rejected. We would get an F on the paper if you had no citation. So same in this Vedic culture, you have to immediately reference the basis of your truth claim. And the sacred text was the basis. And then even in the sacred text, so many ideas are propagated. So those which were considered most authoritative are those which the great personalities themselves actually practiced and pursued. And so in order to underscore the authenticity of the Karma Yoga doctrine that he's just taught, he quotes these universal personalities that they've all received this and followed this particular teaching. You understand? This is the importance of referencing. Nowadays it's a little bit hard because if you reference authority in the modern spiritual conversation, they're like, that's okay, but what do you think? You ever had this thing? What do you think? What's your opinion? I know Krishna said this in Bhagavad-Gita, but what do you think? So well, I think what Krishna says in Bhagavad-Gita, don't be brainwashed. You know, you should learn how to think for yourself. Don't just follow institutional. They speak in this particular way. But in Vedanta discourse, it is only accepted as authentic if you're able to reference the authority. And so Krishna himself is demonstrating the validity of this doctrine. And so he says in verse 4.2, it's kind of a famous verse, Evam param para praptam imam rajashayo vidu. So he says this doctrine is coming, Evam param para praptam, means in this way, from, who is it? Vivaswan. He's a sun god, by the way, in case anyone was curious about that. From the sun god to the father of mankind, Swayambhuva Manu, and then Swayambhuva Manu's first son, Ishwaku, this teaching is coming. So he says in this way through parampara, that means one after another, the teaching is coming down. Not that you can be a self-made guru. Just like there's this one popular, well, I don't know if he's popular now, but he was popular at one point, Krishnamurti. And he was very famous for saying that you don't need a teacher. He would go around teaching that you don't need a teacher. So quite fascinating. And people would be hearing him very attentively. Sometimes they would be taking note also. You don't need teacher. Quite fascinating. But Krishna is saying no. In this way, the system has come through a parampara. From a teacher to a disciple. Then that disciple accepts disciples. And in this way, the teaching comes down. Rajashayo Vidu, it came down through the lineage of saintly kings. So this is an important point. You would think spiritual knowledge is given to a sage in the forest. But Krishna says this doctrine of karma yoga is given to saintly kings or the presidents of the United States. I think we can appreciate why that would be important. That these people who actually had influence over the mass population, the spiritual teaching was specifically given to them so that they could help influence humanity and move their lives in a spiritual way while living in the material world. So it was given to them. But with the great passing of time, Yoga Nashta takes place. Yoga Nashta means the covering of the teachings of yoga. Karma yoga was being taught. So with the passing of time, these teachings become eclipsed. Just like nowadays, there was, even if you look at Western culture, in Western culture, there was a standard host religion. There was Christianity at one point. You know, if you go back farther now, maybe some Native American traditions and so on. So there was a host culture or host religion. And that was the standard understanding of morality and the way you should have social intercourse and so on. But as you introduce all these other, if I say foreign elements, will that be considered like xenophobic or something? When you introduce all these different elements, foreign elements, and they have different concepts and different ideas, and they all start getting propagated into the ether, then what happens is that no one knows what is what anymore. Someone is saying this, another one is saying that. Just like you want to understand how to do some, we've been going to the gym, a few of us, and so I said, okay, I wonder how to do a barbell press or a barbell squat thing. So I did a barbell squat on YouTube real quick. And then like 150 videos come up, and it's tempting to go through all of them. You don't know who is the authority, who is it that should be followed, who should be rejected, who is just making some bogus thing. You don't know anything like this. So in this way, the teaching, the genuine thing gets covered over because so many ideas start to become prominent. This is another way teachings get lost. So just like now, suppose you have an authentic teaching, you've heard from authority, and you enter into the spiritual marketplace. But in the spiritual marketplace, there are so many teachings coming. So how is a person supposed to recognize what is authentic and what is not very authentic? It is very difficult. In this way, the teaching becomes eclipsed with the great passing of time. So now, in 4.3, now again, I want to reteach this literature to you. And this is also a nice verse because he says, Bhakto si me sakacheti rahasyam heta uttamam. Now I will reteach this to you because you are my devotee and friend. So not only are you a saintly king for whom this spiritual knowledge is meant, but you are my devotee and friend. So that is also required for learning. Not generally in the modern day education, there's a division between the teacher and the students. Sometimes the teacher also has like 150 students in a day, or sometimes they have 150 students in a class, like especially in universities. So that fact creates a kind of a barrier between the teacher and the student, which makes it hard for the transmission of knowledge to take place. In order for transmission of knowledge to really take place, there has to be basically a loving relationship between the teacher and the student. For one thing, we mentioned this earlier on when discussing, I think the first class we mentioned this, that in order for knowledge to be transmitted, someone has to take the humble position. Just like if you want to transfer water from one cup to another, what has to happen? We mentioned this. One cup has to come down. You say, well, one cup goes out, another cup goes down. So one cup has to go down. Then there can be transfer of water from, you cannot do it in another way. You cannot do like, that is not possible. Or I don't know, they'll probably make some way you could like put a tube into the thing. If you want to transfer water from one cup to another, one cup has to come down. So what will inspire a person to come down? Very difficult. Just like now, you are sitting, but many of you may not know me. Hi, I'm Jai, by the way. Nice. Most of you know me. But if you don't know me, and I can come off as a little bit crude, a little crass, not so humble. And when you see someone like that, what happens to your ego also gets inspired, right? And so if we don't have loving relationships with each other, how is it possible to come down? Right? Like suppose I started the class, I know more than you. And did one of those things. Then you will not be inspired to come down. It's very hard to learn, isn't it? Even if that is the truth also. So many of you may not know Bhagavad-Gita. So it is also maybe a true statement that I know a little bit more than you when it comes to the Bhagavad-Gita. But if I announce that, then immediately it is hard to come down, isn't it? Or sometimes you have a bad quality. Like sometimes you go to a friend and you say, I have this really bad quality. And your friend like, yeah, I know. Oh, really? And all of a sudden, even you just yourself have said that, but if the friend confirms it, immediately the ego comes up. Oh, that's what you think about me? Well, what are you saying behind my back? Then all of a sudden the mind goes into this whole crazy. So even you yourself said that, but immediately it inspires ego, you cannot come down. So what is required for learning? Someone has to come down. And what will inspire you to come down? Basically some loving relationship, someone you trust. So he said, Bhakto sime sakacheti rahasim heta uttamam. I'm teaching you this highest rahasya, this highest secret, because you are devoted to me and you're my friend. Therefore, you'll receive the whole thing. Without being devoted and without being the friend of Krishna, then you'll accept one part and you'll reject another part. What is the part that you will accept? The part that you like. The part that matches your own way of thinking. And what is the part that you reject? The part that doesn't match your way of thinking, isn't it? I always have this criticism of people who accept teachers today, where they say that person is my guru. And I say, why are you a guru? Why are you choosing? Because he says everything that I already think. So therefore, he must be the one. Whatever I already think, he is communicating that. Therefore, he is my guru. So I'm like, aren't you just really accepting yourself, just like an extension of yourself? Of course, you have to be a little subtle to realize that. But the tendency is like that. Who do we accept as teacher? Those who validate whatever I think, then that is my teacher. But often, and we mentioned this in the first class, and it's something always important to keep in mind, often the truth, the nature of ignorance is that our conventional awareness is opposite to truth. We've defined this many times in our classes. So that means when you hear the truth, it is often a little jarring, a little uncomfortable. It hits all those nice little pressure points, just like you see. He does the marma therapy, and sometimes he hits a certain pressure point. And with me, I'm pretty good because I'm like healthy, so it doesn't disturb so much. But when Daniel, he just touched Daniel a little bit, he's like crying. So truth is like that. Truth finds all those little pressure points, and you feel uncomfortable. If it's a really good class, then it'd be hitting all those pressure points. So that by the end of the class, you're just like walk out of the class like this. How was the class, bro? It was deep. It was deep. It was some deep training going on in there. That is the nature of truth. So in order to receive that truth, bhaktosi me sakacheta, you should be devoted, you should be a friend of the teacher, and ultimately of Krishna. Otherwise, you'll only accept the part that you like, and you will reject the part that you don't like. And that's what often happens when people read Bhagavad-Gita by themselves. Because they don't accept any teacher, so they like this teaching in Bhagavad-Gita, they like that teaching in Bhagavad-Gita, so they repeat that. And the part they don't like, they give their own interpretation, or they just outright reject it. So that means they cannot learn Bhagavad-Gita. So I can teach you this highest secret because you're my devotee and you're my friend. We have that relationship that allows you to receive the whole thing. And you're also, because of that relationship, you're also able to take the lower position by which the transference can be very easy. So these are kind of important verses. They lead Arjuna to ask a question. He's like, wait a minute. You taught this to the sun god? That's like 120 million years ago. How do you teach this to the sun god? So suppose I also said that. I'm young. Our Krishna at this time, he's about 125 maybe, but he looks like 16. And Arjuna's like, maybe mid-30s. And Krishna's like, yeah, I taught this to the sun god. The sun god? It's like 120 million years ago. How'd you teach this to the sun god? So Arjuna naturally has a doubt about that. It's like if I were to say that, yeah, I taught this to the sun god. Of course, I wouldn't say it because if you say, even if that were true, if you said that, they merely call it a psychiatric word. Yeah, we got another crazy one over here at the Hare Krishna temple. So Krishna is saying, so Arjuna is, how do you teach this to the sun god? So he gets into a little bit of a tangential discussion. The discussion right now is going on is karma yoga. But it gets into a slight tangential discussion about the nature of Krishna and the avatar. Because Arjuna wants to know, how is it that you taught this to the sun god who existed 120 million years ago, which is, a long time ago. So this is verse 4, just reading the English here. The sun god Vivaswan is senior by birth to you. Yes, quite senior. 120 million years just to be, precise. How am I to understand that in the beginning you instructed this science to him? So now Krishna speaks, I think the technical word for it in philosophical tradition is theophany. Theophany basically means the appearance of God in the world. This is called as theophany. And from Bhagavad Gita's perspective, it's called the avatar doctrine. This word avatar is a popular English word now. Karma is a popular English word now. It's not an English word, Sanskrit word, but it's become popular in the English language. Mantra is another one, avatar. There was a movie Avatar with blue-faced people. There was Avatar: The Last Airbender, which is a great cartoon. I have to admit. As a grown man, I did like Avatar: The Last Airbender. And they have the video games also. They call them avatars, I think, right? When you go into the video game, you have your avatar. So the word avatar means one who comes from above to below. That is the meaning of the word avatar. Ava means to descend. One who comes from above to below is called the avatar. So the idea is that there is an eternally existing entity, namely God, that exists in a spiritual reality. And sometimes he descends into this material world. And when he descends into the material world, such a descent is called avatar. So that is the meaning of the word avatar. If you've ever seen the movie Avatar or you watched the whole series of Avatar: Last Airbender, they had a follow-up, also Legends of Korra. Don't ask me how I know that. Or you have the video game Avatar, so you may be confused about this word, so now it should be clear. What is the meaning of avatar? From the one who comes from above to below. So Krishna now wants to elaborate about this avatar doctrine. And so this is the main crust of what we want to talk. So this is verse 5. He says here, many, many births both you and I have passed. I can remember all of them, but you cannot, O subduer of the enemy. So both of us have many, many births, but our appearances in this world. But I can remember all of them, but you cannot. Because when the soul changes bodies, then when the soul changes bodies, he forgets his previous body. Of course, you cannot even remember what you were doing when you were 5 years old, not so much less a previous body that you had. But Krishna does not change his body, therefore he does not forget anything. So he says, many, many births you and I have both passed, but I can remember all of them, but you cannot. And that's because I don't change my body, whereas you do change your body. This is the difference. So he wants to clarify this difference in 4.6. So 4.6 is actually a very important verse and understanding this avatar doctrine. Ajo pisan avyayatma bhutanam ishoro pisan. So Krishna says, Ajo api, although I'm unborn. So do you take birth? You take birth? You're taking birth? You've taken birth, right? Yes, you've taken birth. Okay. Everyone is here taking birth. Huh? Thank God. That was a pretty rigorous situation. Coming out of the womb ain't nothing nice. Probably the child is. The mother is like, oh, everyone come feel. But the child inside is, get me the hell out of here. And I'm not making that up. There's actually a detailed description of that in the Srimad Bhagavatam. The kid inside is struggling. And then when he has to come out, that's not a pretty picture. He gets pushed out through a small hole. So it's a very challenging situation. So you don't want to remember that. That was my point. Krishna helps us that we don't remember that. Otherwise, we might be traumatized for life remembering such a thing. So ajo api, although I am unborn. So that is already a difference between Krishna and us. Krishna says, I am unborn. He's also appearing in the world. You can see him, but he says, I am unborn. But you are also here, but you were born. And why do you have this body and not another body? Just like I have black body, you have and man's body, you have woman body, white, you have man body, white. So how come you didn't get a black body? How come you didn't get a black body? Because of privilege? No, because of karma. How come you got woman's body and not man's body? How come I got man's body and not woman's body? Sometimes people have this thing where they feel they didn't get the right body. We're not going to go into anything political, but this thing is also there. So why does that happen? Because you have different karma. So the type of birth you take in this world is due to your karma. Right? Otherwise, there's no other explanation. Why you get one body, not another type of body? Have you ever wondered that? Like, why do I have this body, not another body? It's kind of a weird thing to think about, but like it's interesting. Why do I have this body? Like, there's so many bodies. Why I get this type of body, not some other type of body? So what is the answer to such a mystery? So karma. Bhagavad-Gita will explain in more detail. So you take birth in this world according to your karma. But the avatar is unborn. That's because he has no karma. So he's not forced to take birth. We're forced to take birth. Sometimes in the spiritual marketplace, they also have this concept that you choose your body. I'm like, we choose. Anyway, I know this as a fact. People have this concept that you can choose your body. So I said, why would someone choose? I mean, no, as they say, no tea, no shade. But some bodies are kind of like, let's say, ugly. Now, who would choose that? Now, I know people feel like that's not proper, that's not politically correct language and all that. But objectively speaking, even for your own eyes, some people are considered basically, maybe ugly is not the best word to use, but basically, you may use another word, but you're thinking ugly only. And some people are beautiful because that's how karma plays itself out. That's a fact, isn't it? Some people are rich, some people are poor. You cannot disagree. Some people are black, some people are white, some are men, some are women. So similarly, someone is beautiful and someone is ugly. You may say not beautiful, which is ugly, huh?
Less beautiful.
Yeah, less beautiful. And some people are very less beautiful. Less beautiful, exponentially less beautiful. You may use some other word, but that word is coming in your mind only. So why does that happen? Someone is rich, someone is poor, someone is beautiful, and someone is ugly. Why? Because of karma. And who would choose such a situation? So that means we're being forced into this body, right? But Krishna said, "Ajo api," although I'm not being forced into a body by karma. That's the first thing to understand about the avatar and his difference from us. Then he says, "Avyayatman," there is no transformation in my body. Your body goes through 6 types of transformations, right? There is birth, there is growth, there is wasting some time, going here and there, doing whatever you're doing. Of course, you call it life, but Shastra calls it wasting time, basically. And then there's, what's the other one? Reproduction, yes, producing byproducts. And then dwindling, and then death. So these are the 6 Krishna says here, Avyayatma, my body does not go through these transformations. It is imperishable. Bhutana Ishvaro Api-san. I am also the controller of all the living entities. We cannot say that. So there's a difference between the avatar and us. What are the difference? 3 differences. Number 1, I'm born. Number 2, don't go through transformations. Number 3, he controls everyone. You would like that also, wouldn't you? Very nice. You would like. You would definitely like. I was taking an airplane from San Francisco back to Chicago. I was trying to resist it, but it was a 6-hour flight, so I finally caved in at the end and watched the movie. I was trying to be spiritual and everything, Finally, I did. I was like, okay, I want to see a movie, but I didn't have any headphones. So I was like, I got any headphones. So I watched a movie called The Darkest Minds. And anyway, not going through all the details of the movie, but it's about kids who basically develop superpowers, and they have different levels of superpowers. And the most dangerous level was the person who can control other people's minds and make them do whatever they want. And it was mad cool. I was like, that would be a cool superpower, Just like sometimes in the temple, we're always having class because there's a lot of services and no one to help you. So you say, Prabhu, can you help me? They just leave, or they say flat out say no. And then if you could just go, you're like, okay. That would be a great superpower, isn't it? Don't lie. You would like that. You go to your boss and you say, can you give me a promotion? He says, no. He goes, can you give me a promotion? Yes, whatever you want. That'd be a great superpower. Don't even lie. So Krishna is Bhutana Ishvaro Api-san. He is the controller of everyone. So there's a difference between the avatar and us. Pakritim swamadishtaya swamavami atmamayaya. So I make my appearance in this world in my own nature through my own power. So I'm not forced into a body. I appear in my own body. Pakritim swam means my own body. I make my appearance. And I do that through my own energy. Not that another energy is forcing me into this. And this will become an important point later on. But you can make note of it. This word Atmamaya means by my own energy, I make my appearance in this world. You do not make your appearance in this world by your own energy. You're forced into a body by another energy external to you. So this will become crucial later on. Last few verses here. So when does the avatar come? He says in 4:7, he comes at a particular time. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyuta nama dharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham. Whenever and wherever there's a decline in religious principles, dharmasya glani. So whenever dharma is declining, and abhyuta nama dharmasya, and there's an increase of adharma, at that time I make my appearance. So whenever that happens, then at that time I appear. When there's dharma glani, means the dharma is becoming covered, and the adharma is becoming strong. At that time I make my appearance. So what do you do when you come? That is the next verse. Paritranaya sadhunam. First thing I do is liberate the devotees. Paritranaya sadhunam means to deliver the saintly persons. Vinashaya chadushkritam. And the demons, I kill them. Dharma samstarpanataya. And I reestablish the principles of religion. Samabhami yuge yuge. In this way, millennia after millennia, I appear. So he says how the avatar appears, when the avatar appears, and what he does when he appears. What does he do when he appears? Below. He liberates the saintly persons, kills the demons, and establishes the principle of Dharma. So, are you devotee or demon? You can just meditate on that. And if we happen to be on the demon category, we better hope an avatar doesn't come anytime soon, because that could be problematic for us. You should become saintly person, and then you're delivered by the appearance of the avatar. So in 4:9, which is a very important verse, he speaks about the power of hearing the stories of the avatar. And this is a very central devotional practice. Jamma karma chame divyam evam yaveti tatutaha takto deham punar jamma naitimam etiso arjuna. So anyone who Jamma karma chame divyam, they hear the stories concerning my birth and activities in this world. Veti tattva, they understand them in truth. They understand the tattva that underlies the pastimes. Because some of the avatars are kind of like obviously God. In the sense like the Shingadev. The Shingadev is half man, half lion. When he comes, he's very large. He has a lot of arms. If you see him, you're kind of like, yeah, you got it. I'm not going to even debate that. I always say we sing the Shingadev prayers every morning in our morning program. I said, I always wonder what would happen if the Shingadev just suddenly appeared, like actually appeared. You're like, Namaste, Narasimha. You see everyone get up. Of course, we're supposed to be his devotee, but that would still be a little bit, it would be mad scary. Even the demigods, when the Shingadev was, he just killed the demon Hiranyakashipu. We don't have it in the Shingadev picture here because it's probably not good for public. It was a very nice picture. So when he just killed the demon, he was furious. Then all the devatas, they were trying to offer prayers. So he was like, okay, chill out. You did your thing. Now you've been Ashaya Chadushkritam. You've killed the demons. Now chill. So they were offering many prayers, but and then they were pushing everyone forward. Lakshmi, you go. I've never seen him like this before. Come on, offer some prayers. So she offered try also pray. Finally, like Prahlad, he only came for you, so you offer. So Prahlad was a little shorty, little kid, and he walked up and offered very beautiful prayers. And Krishna was very pacified. So in that case, it's obviously he's God. Or at least if you say, I don't know if he's God, he says, I'm God. You're like, yeah, no, I'm not going to protest that. But some of the avatars, like Krishna avatar, his pastimes are very human-like. And so it's very easy to misconceive them as human. But they have this word, anthropomorphism. They say that we're projecting our own humanity onto divinity, and it comes out as Krishna. That's actually, philosophically, we're not going to get into the technicality because of time. But it is not because we're humans that we think Krishna is human. But because we're humans, we think Krishna can't be human. And this has something to do with the egocentrism problem. That we look at the world from our own ego, and therefore we think that anything that is true, anything we accept as true has to be in reference to our own ego and our own life experience. So because we know what type of person we are, and we know what type of people that others are, then we say God can't be that, which is true. He can't be a material person, but he's a person of a whole nother category. So it's kind of hard to understand the truth that underpins some of the stories of the avatars. So here he says, anyone who hears these stories and understands them in truth. So it's not just about hearing the stories, but also understanding the tattva behind them. Otherwise, you may conceive of them as something material. Then he says, for them, they become liberated. Taktva deham punarjama naitimam etiso arjuna. When they're free from this body, they will no longer take birth. And then the last verse of this passage that I will share from 4:10. This is one of my favorite verses of Gita. At least I quote it a lot. Vidaraga bhaya krodha mamaya mamupashritaha. Anyone who takes full shelter of me, giving up attachment, fear, and anger. Bahavo gana tapasa putama bhavamagata. And they they're purified by the austerity of knowledge. Gana tapasa puta means to be purified by the austerity of knowledge. What is the austerity of knowledge? The austerity of trying to learn the tattva. Just like now, you come to Gita class, but some of you come to one class, then, or hear one class, then for 8 months, no more Bhagavad-Gita. And then you come back for a class, and that is okay. And we're not discouraging that. I'm not trying to make fun or anything like that. But the austerity of knowledge means you coming regularly to hear so you can understand deeply what is this tattva. If you have to learn something, suppose you were learning mathematics in school. Well, yeah, I was very bad at math. So suppose, and I went every day and I was still horrible, but suppose you were trying to learn a subject matter, you come one day, then you come 2 weeks later, and then you come 3 weeks later. Can you learn like that anything nicely? You will learn like that. Sometimes people also do this thing. You say yes? Nah. Even going every day, I didn't learn nicely, but so sometimes people also, they have this, and this is not a bad practice per se. I don't want to be discouraging, but we're making a point here. Sometimes people also have this thing where you read like a verse a day because that's all you can get in. That is also beautiful as a maybe personal spiritual practice. But if you really want to learn something, then first you have to go to a teacher and you have to spend a lot of time with that teacher to actually learn. This is called Jnana Tapasa, the austerity of learning, the austerity of knowledge. So he says, many persons who have taken up this austerity of knowledge, giving up attachment, fear, and anger, and taking shelter of me, Putha madbhavam agata. They attain madbhava, means a nature like my own. That means they become transcendental. So his encouragement is what? To hear the stories of the avatar, to take shelter of the avatar, giving up attachment, fear, anger, and to perform the austerity of knowledge to learn the truth that underpins the stories of the avatar. And if you do that, then you will attain liberation. So you'll find in India that this is still probably the most common practice in India amongst followers of Vedanta traditions, that they still hear the stories of the avatar. You can still have a program, they say Ram Katha, and tons of people will come to hear the stories about Ram. They still may not understand it in truth because they don't do Jnana Tapasa, but they have that practice of hearing. So that is, anyway, so this concludes this sort of tangential discussion that Krishna makes talking about himself. And now he's going to get back into Karma Yoga. Hari Om Tat Sat. Thanks a lot. Well, we have about 7 minutes before class is over. And I have the questionnaire that I made for this. So you can break off into groups. Does anyone want to ask anything? Was there anything unclear? I think I did the best I could. Everything is okay? Then you can work on the questionnaire, break off to a group for 7 minutes. And then after looking at the questions, if you don't understand anything, just doing the first section, obviously, in the first section. And then at the end, if you have any question, you can ask. Yeah, I'm giving a new one. So. I only have 7, so you usually break off into groups of 2, 3, or 4, and then you just share and learn. Hey, what's up, online people? I'll share the questionnaires in the chat box if you would like to see them. I gotta put copy. Hare Krishna. Okay, the avatar doctrine. Copy. Krishna, Krishna, Hare, Hare. Okay, there you have it, online people. All the questions for today's section. Question. Yes. Yes, the stories of the Avatar.
Yeah. So this is where he talks about people that understand the take birth again in the material world, so attain
Yeah.
So why do you? Is it about like if you understand avatars, you become liberated?
Yes. So taktva deham punarjama. So that means when one gives up the deha, the body, 19 mam 80 so Arjuna. When he attains me, now. Yeah. When he gives up the body, he attains me. And then in the next verse, he says, "Ma bhava magata." He attains a nature like my own. And later, Krishna will describe in like 14:2 that his nature is that when there's the creation and destruction of the world, he is completely unaffected by that. So that means when there's creation and destruction of the universe, that he is in a state beyond that. So that is just another way you attain a nature like that. That means when there's creation, you are not created. When there's destruction, you are not destroyed. So it's another way of saying you attain liberation. Just from understanding the Avatar, the stories of the Avatar. Such as the power of hearing the stories of the Avatar. It's a very specific bhakti practice also. Most of our practice actually concerns ourselves with hearing the stories of the deity that we worship. So we worship Radha Mulidhar, we worship Krishna. So the vast majority of our practice is just hearing the stories of Krishna. And just by hearing those stories and understanding them in truth, one not only attains freedom from this world, but you attain a nature like Krishna. So that's a very important statement.
But you still take birth again in the material world.
No, you do not attain the material world again.
Oh.
Yeah, that might be a typo then.
Oh, really?
Let me see. What does it say precisely? All right, ring, 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 ring. Want to know the transcendental of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body.
Oh my God! It changes everything. That's why I was so confused.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you. I just needed to read.
Okay. Gana tapasa. So the off.
The other explanation again.
Ring, 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 ring. All right, so class is over. Are there any final questions or comments?
I got a
Yes.
Okay, I guess 2 of 2 and 3 of 2. It kind of seemed like the same question. Is when does the avatar appear?
Yes.
And for what purpose does avatar appear?
Yes, there are different questions. So what is the answer? Who has an answer for 2? What says here? 2, 2. When does the avatar appear? What is the answer?
When the karma is low.
Yeah, when the dharma. Actually, sometimes the word dharma and karma actually used interchangeably. So when there is a decline in dharma and an increase of adharma, then that time I make my appearance, Krishna says. Very good. What is your name?
Brad.
Brad? Oh, Brad's first class. That's very nice. I'll give him a round of applause, everyone. And what is the answer to 2, 3? For what purpose does the avatar appear? Daniel has already spoken this. To reestablish principles of Dharma and kill demons and
enjoy the relationships with
the devotees, deliver the devotees. So these 3 reasons. So 2 questions. Okay, any other questions, clarifications?
What was the value of understanding the stories?
Yes, what is the value of understanding the stories of the avatar? Danielle, since you've also asked the question, what is the value?
Well, so you become liberated and you don't take birth again in the material world.
Yes.
And you attain godlike.
Yes, my bhavam agata, you get a nature like mine, Krishna says. So that's a pretty big value. That's pretty solid. Pretty solid. You get out of the material world and you get a nature like my own. So that's pretty good advertisement to hear the stories of Krishna. So like I said, this is the main practice of bhakti tradition. Here we worship Radha Mulidhar on the altar in Gaurachandra. So most of our practice is centered around hearing the stories of Krishna. You see all these paintings on the wall. They're all depicting different stories of Krishna. So our practice is to hear these stories of Krishna, hear the stories of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And just by hearing these stories, you can get freedom from this material world. And you can also attain a nature like Krishna and his associates. So it's very nice, very wonderful. So one should take up this practice. Very easy also. What is the difficulty in hearing? Of course, there's a lot of difficulty there. But as we mentioned in the class today, if you have certain qualities, it makes it easy to hear. What is that quality? Remember from verse 4:3. Humility. And expresses what? From verse 4:3, we're talking about it quite a bit. Huh? Friendship and? That's the same word. Bhakto si me sakha cheti. Bhakta means devotee, and sakha means friend. So if you have that relationship with the teacher, and then you have that relationship with also ultimately with Krishna, then it becomes very easy to hear the stories. And when you hear from your teacher, then your teacher you love, you have devotion, dedication, then this bhakti process becomes easy like anything. If you don't have devotion for the teacher, then this bhakti process is almost nearly impossible to follow. Even though it's so simple, you'll not do anything. That's why people who don't have gurus don't really make good progress in bhakti. But if you have dedication to the teacher, actually bhakti means dedication to the teacher. There's verses there. Bhayam dutiya abhiniveshata shat. Ishare petasha viparyo ashmitihi. Tanmaya yato buddha abhachetam. Bhaktya kayesham guru deva tatma. So this verse is describing what it means to be in Maya. You know this word Maya? Maya means to be an illusion. Who here is in Maya? Oh, Maya. So we'll describe. Bhaya, the verse says, Ishara petasha. When one is turned away from the absolute reality, known as Isha, the Lord, the absolute reality. Then first thing that happens is Ashmriti, means you forget your own self. Because the soul is part and parcel of that reality. If you turn away from that reality, then you forget your own self also. Just like if you turn your back on the sun, what do you see? Shadow. Huh? So you forget your own self. And after forgetting your own self, viparyaya, you start to think in the opposite way. What is the opposite way? Instead of thinking you are soul, you think you're this body. Huh? And from that thought, I am this body, dvitiya abhiniveshata, you become absorbed in the non-essential. Anything that is not important, you become absorbed in that. Anything that is important, no interest. Anything that is not important, you become absorbed. And from there, bhaya, your life is always fearful. You're always afraid, isn't it? Some fear is going on. So Krishna says, tamaya yato, this is maya. Buddha abhajatam, if you are an intelligent person, or if you want to be an intelligent person, who here wants to be intelligent? Okay, that's okay. We're doing good then. At least we want to be intelligent. Then bhaktya eka isham, then you should do exclusive devotion to me, the Lord. Guru Deva Atma, taking the Guru as one's Deva, as one's worshipable deity, and as one's Atma, as one's life. Atma here means you see the Guru as your life because he is giving you life by giving spiritual teaching and putting your life on the spiritual path. So if you have devotion for the teacher, then this bhakti process becomes easy. Then you can hear for many hours from the teacher. And that way, just by hearing from the teacher, you get nature like Krishna. And if you don't have devotion for the teacher, then all the time sleeping in the class, not coming to the class, not hearing the class, not making progress, getting absorbed in Maya, and then again, another body, another body, another body, another